And the Daily Graphic is reporting this morning, don't travel first class. President Mahama instructs appointees. Then some people are asking, but is business okay?
But this first class thing,
Yeah.
I have seen in the past administration, I've seen ministers traveling on business class. So it's not like ministers travel on first class. I've seen ministers travel on business class.
So you're saying it's not policy?
I've also seen letters to the chief of staff seeking permission before ministers travel.
As in the non-essential travel?
Yes, and well, every time, the letters that I have seen, and in one instance, this minister was actually refused. Okay? He wanted to travel, and the chief of staff says, no, we do not think you can travel around this time.
You know, one of them, I get your point. We reached the point where people traveled, ministers traveled to go and receive fake awards in Dubai. Clearly. Sometimes to go and attend some irrelevant conference they are paid for to give them some award or to make them speak so that they will put it on our TV as something that is an achievement also. Almost as if the external endorsement is far more important than what the people of this country think about our own people. So I think the mentality. There was a time he was charged for spending an extra day of his travel outside England. Boris Johnson as, what they call it, Prime Minister. Extra day. They then considered that as irrelevant travel, that he shouldn't have stayed, then actually charged him for it. I'm looking forward to the time where the same thing will be applied to us, because this is the people's resources, especially our own, is very limited, extremely limited.
Exactly.
So should be treated that way.
So this is not, this is not really anything new, because ministers can, but even then, why some of the travels, as you've made the point, a lot of the travels may be unnecessary.
They are per diem related travels.
Oh yes. So,
and it should not be limited to only the ministers. He, the executive president too.
Yeah.
We're not expecting him to be just going to every single event that's available in the world, or whichever one he gets invited to.
It's one of the things
without showing proof to the Ghanaian people what the impact will be on us.
It's one of the things we as the media question the least: the relevance of travel. It doesn't come up that often. Sometimes it does. It depends on the circumstances. But it's the sort of thing that we ought to ask. It's the sort of question we ought to ask every time. President is going to Angola. Why? What's he going there to do? What's he bringing back? What is the value of this trip to us? Is it worth the kerosene that we are putting in the aircraft? Like, we should ask these questions. Okay? Now, look, this first class thing.
They put kerosene in aircraft now.
Yes. This first class thing, this first class question, didn't it come up when Akufo-Addo became president?
Yeah.
Wasn't there a ban on first class travel at that time too? How long did it last? If it has to be banned again?
Maybe this reminder to the new
that's
cabinet
what I'm saying,
officials.
that from my checks, ministers, I've seen a lot of ministers traveling on business class. They travel on business class. The directors will travel on economy, but the ministers travel on business class. If the president decides to use, if he's not renting an aircraft, he will travel on a first class. But that's what I'm saying. So
who is the ban for?
That's why I make the point.
It must mean that they do it, even though maybe they're not supposed to.
I make the point that this is not something new, because from my checks, the ministers, from the documents I have seen, they were traveling business class. Okay.
All right then.
But you see, the other thing you talked about something. You see, a lot of ministries and state agencies have a budget for travels and conferences and all of that. And it will be important to focus on that. There was a time I asked the NHIA CEO, former, that's Dr. Abajida Costa. I asked him, because he was talking about how they are investing some millions of Ghana cedis in giving free dialysis care, and it's just for a pilot, the challenge. And I said, how much is your conferencing budget? He said, why are you asking that? And I said, I just want to make a simple point. That, look, if you look at it critically, a lot of the conferences you attend may not be necessary. And that budget could go into supporting persons on dialysis. It's that simple. And we need to take a second look at all of these things. Anyway, we'll talk about it later on.
Now, 2025 National Chocolate Week launched. That's also on the front page. AG terminates 3 more cases, and massive gold cash bust. National security seizes millions. Suspects flee. So, national security has made a massive bust, seizing a large unspecified amount of US dollars and Ghana cedis, including counterfeits hidden in 12 different 20-foot shipping containers. The operation also discovered and led to the seizure of boxes of heavy metal suspected to be gold bars. The containers were tracked to a warehouse at Ofankor in the Ga South municipality, where a special late-night operation was conducted after a tip-off. The concealed currency, mostly bundles of US dollars, was found in wooden boxes covered with cement. And this is all over social media anyway. Extra currencies were discovered when other boxes were opened in the warehouse during the sting operation. All of them suspected to be fake and stashed in the boxes that were sealed with plywood and covered with charcoal. National security operatives involved in the operation disclosed that 2 more containers were being tracked. All those suspects of the crime and the syndicate are on the run. A manhunt is underway for 4 of them, including the suspected ringleader, known for now as Alhaji. That's a very perfect way to know somebody. That's like almost 1 million people in this country. A source which says with inside knowledge about the issue told the Daily Graphic. So that's the biggest story on the front page of the Daily Graphic here.
I wonder, I mean, is it normal for national security to grant interviews to the press?
No, they didn't say national security has granted.
They said according to national security. Oh, okay, so it's a source, right?
In fact, this one's with inside knowledge about the issue.
All right, so it's a source,
yes.
Right? But you know there was video of the raid.
It came out somehow.
Yeah, so the...
Oh, but at some point we even had a national security minister
wanting
who we
to...
spoke to.
The national security minister had made attempts to, open up the national security. Well, I'm sure for those who led the operation, they believed it was important for us to know what could be happening in this country. And I think it's important we get to know.
Do you believe that the only name they have is Alhaji?
Yes, that's what they say.
Do you believe that? How did they trace these containers without any names except Alhaji?
Do you have any information you want to share?
No, I'm just asking. I'm asking a few questions. That's my job, isn't it?
Okay.
So I'm asking some questions.
Okay, so before we move on, page 48, disciplinary sanctions against some members of the Institute of Chartered Accountants Ghana. Yes, they are there. There are about 3 or so names, including an institution. If you want to know whether your name is on the list, page 48 of the Daily Graphic.
Okay, let's go to the Business and Financial Times. It says the Ghana Stock Exchange and the Ghana Securities Industry Association push for capital market reforms. It's here. Old Mutual taps Roy Punungwe as GCEO to drive growth and innovation. And then petroleum revenue drops by 62.63% in the second half of 2024. So we're told that domestic petroleum revenue fell 62.63% in the second half of 2024, with receipts totaling $517 million, down from the $840 million in the first half of the year, according to the Bank of Ghana Petroleum Funds report. And we're told that total annual revenue reached approximately $1.3 billion, and the report covering the period up to December 31, 2024 attributed $369 million to 5 crude oil liftings from the Jubilee, 10 and Sankofa Jinyame fields between July and October. Additional inflows included $144 million in corporate taxes from sector players, $74,000 in surface rental fee from Planet One Oil and gas, and $3.6 million in accrued interest from petroleum holding funds. So that's it, basically, mainly. But back page says President Mahama meets ENI CEO, Italian firm keen to increase investment, and Vice President to grace 10th Ghana Women of Excellence Awards. I'm sure we can go for the online news review then.